This is our Derrick designing game. It's an engineering game to look at oil derricks. So the oil derrick is the part of an oil rig that helps hold the piping that is then put into the ground to help drill and bring oil to the surface. So basic materials for this one: 2 paper plates. You're going to need some spaghetti and some of the large marshmallows, maybe a ruler if you want, and then some poker chips or other small individual things that you could use for weights, so small metal bearings or something, and then a cost sheet, especially if you're doing this with older students. And the purpose of this activity is for the students to build a derrick that is hopefully structurally sound, so it needs to be at least 8 inches tall, and it needs to be flat on the surface so that we can put a paper plate on top of it, add the poker chips one at a time, and test how much weight that derrick can hold. So what we would have the students do is come up with a plan of how many nuts and bolts or marshmallows they wanted and how many steel beams or pasta they want. Each marshmallow is $2,000 and they can be torn or broken apart. Each steel beam is $6,000 and they can also be broken. So once they've designed sort of what they think their derrick is going to look like, they'll come up with some costs. They can always add more later if they want. And then they will start building. So once they start building, if I were to be magical and do a quick build here, bam, derrick built with my marshmallows and my spaghetti. It is at least 8 inches tall, so we can measure that out, make sure. And then it is flat on top so it can hold a paper plate. Then what we would do to test it is we would put poker chips on one at a time. So we would count them out: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? All the way, counting them one at a time until we figured out how many it could hold. This is a really good derrick, so it's holding a lot. Maybe put some more on there, and then that's it. It's gonna tip over or break. If they want, if it just tips over, they can redesign and try again, but if it completely breaks, they would have to get all new materials to try again and do some redesign. Then I would go through and count how many poker chips. And so on your profit analysis sheet, you'd count how many chips it held. So let's say it held 100 chips. Then each chip represents 50 barrels of oil, meaning it had the strength to pull 50 barrels of oil out of the ground. So you would multiply your number of chips by 50. And then we have the students look up the current price of a barrel of oil. So we talk about how oil prices change and fluctuate daily. So they would come up with that, and then they would do that price times the total number of barrels of oil that they could get out of the ground, and that would be their income. So once they have their income, they would take their income and subtract out their initial cost to figure out what their profit is. So very basic activity. Lots of good engineering, some good math, lots of fun. There's lots of redesigns that you can do. And then again, apply it back to Alaska and some of the oil rigs that we have here in the state.